Picture this. You're at work or maybe you're just out getting groceries. It's 2 p.m. and suddenly it's not that you're tired. Tired implies you need a nap. This is different. It's like someone reached inside your body and pulled the main power cable out of the wall. Your brain gets fuzzy, the room feels a little too bright, standing up feels like a physics problem you can't quite solve. But here's the kicker. To everyone else, you look completely fine. You aren't fainting, you aren't vomiting, you're just empty. This is the invisible reality for thousands of people living with adrenal insufficiency. We are often taught to look for the disasters, the adrenal crisis, the ambulance ride. But what about the Tuesday afternoon when you just can't function, but you don't know why? Today, we're doing a deep dive into the quiet signals of the body, the whispers that happen long before the scream. I'm Jake, and this is The Deep Dive.
Hi, Jake. I'm so glad we're talking about this because, honestly, those whispers you mentioned, that is where the real battle is fought for most patients.
And joining us to break this down is Rachel, our expert on chronic endocrine health. Rachel, we're looking at a really powerful piece from My Adrenal Life today titled When the Signals Are Quiet But Important. The core thesis here seems to be that we have a massive misunderstanding of what adrenal insufficiency, or AI, actually looks like on a daily basis.
Exactly. If you open a medical textbook, AI, whether it's Addison's disease or secondary adrenal insufficiency, is often described by its extremes. You read about adrenal crisis, which is life-threatening shock, but patients don't live in a crisis 24/7. They live in this gray zone where the body is struggling to maintain homeostasis, but it hasn't fully collapsed yet.
The article uses this phrase that stuck with me. It says, when cortisol is even slightly mismatched to the body's needs, things don't fall apart all at once, they fray. What is actually happening biologically when that fraying starts?
To understand the fraying, we have to rebrand cortisol. We have this cultural idea that cortisol is the bad guy, right? The stress hormone that gives you belly fat.
Right, we're always trying to lower it.
But for people with AI, cortisol is life itself. It's not just for stress. It regulates blood pressure. It manages how your body uses sugar for energy. It controls inflammation. It's essentially the fuel injection system for your engine. When you have adrenal insufficiency, your tank is manually filled, usually with pills, and you don't have a reserve tank. So fraying is what happens when the engine is running on fumes. You haven't stalled yet, but the ride is getting really rough.
Let's get into the specifics of that rough ride. The text lists some very subtle symptoms that are easy to brush off as just having a bad day. One of the first ones is that tasks requiring more planning than they used to. Why would low cortisol affect your ability to plan a grocery trip?
That's the cognitive impact, often called brain fog, but that term feels too fluffy for what it is. Biologically, your brain is a massive consumer of glucose. Cortisol helps regulate blood sugar levels, ensuring your brain gets a steady stream of fuel. When cortisol dips, even slightly, your brain is effectively experiencing a brownout. The lights are on, but the voltage is low. Complex executive functions like planning, sequencing tasks, emotional regulation, those are the first things to go offline because they're energy expensive.
So it's not just I'm tired, it's I literally cannot compute the steps required to make dinner.
Precisely. And that leads to another signal the article mentions, feeling unsettled or harder to regulate. You might feel irritable, weepy, or anxious. It's not a personality flaw. It's a physiological shortage of the hormone that helps buffer your nervous system.
Another one that I found fascinating was temperature sensitivity. The article mentions increased sensitivity to heat or cold. I wouldn't have connected that to adrenal glands. What's the link there?
This is a big one that patients complain about, but doctors sometimes overlook. Cortisol plays a major role in vascular tone. Basically, it helps your blood vessels constrict and dilate properly to maintain blood pressure and move heat around. When you don't have enough cortisol, your blood vessels get kind of lazy. They don't clamp down when they should. So if it's hot, your blood might pool in your extremities, making you dizzy. If it's cold, you can't conserve heat effectively. You lose the ability to thermostat yourself.
That explains the dizziness the text mentions too. It says subtle dizziness or nausea. It's not necessarily that the room is spinning, but that your blood isn't getting to your head efficiently.
Exactly. It's often orthostatic, meaning it happens when you stand up. In a healthy person, you stand up, your adrenals squirt a tiny bit of cortisol and adrenaline, your vessels tighten, and your blood pressure stays stable. In an AI patient, that signal is weak or missing. You stand up, the pressure drops, and you get that whoosh feeling. It's a quiet signal that your tank is low.
The article also talks about recovery time. This hit home for me reading it. It says recovery takes longer, not just hours, but days, and that this fatigue happens after stressors that don't feel major at the time. Why does the math not add up for AI patients? Why does a minor stressor equal 3 days of recovery?
This is the spoon theory in action, the idea that you have a finite amount of energy units per day. But biologically, here's what's happening. In a healthy body, if you have a stressful day, say you travel or have a small cold, your body naturally surges cortisol to meet that demand. It compensates automatically. An AI patient's body cannot surge. They are taking a fixed dose of medication. If they don't manually add more medication, which is an imperfect science, they are operating at a deficit. They are borrowing energy from tomorrow and the next day and the next. The debt takes days to pay back because the body has no way to quick charge the battery.
That concept of debt is terrifying because the article lists things that cause this debt which seem so trivial. A viral illness from weeks ago, changes in the weather, emotional stress. It implies you have to be constantly vigilant.
And that vigilance is exhausting in itself. Imagine having to consciously manage a system that everyone else's body manages on autopilot. You have to be your own adrenal gland. You have to look at the weather report and think, oh, big pressure drop coming. I might need to rest more. That's a heavy cognitive load.
Which brings us to the psychological part of this deep dive. The text highlights a really painful dynamic. We may worry we're being lazy, anxious, or overly cautious. Why is it so hard for patients to just listen to these signals?
Because the signals are invisible. If you had a broken leg, no one would call you lazy for not running a marathon. But adrenal fatigue, and I mean true insufficiency here, not the internet buzzword, looks like nothing from the outside. You might just look quiet or a bit pale, so patients internalize that. They think, everyone else is working 40 hours and raising kids and going to the gym. Why can't I? They gaslight themselves.
The article says, adrenal insufficiency does not reward waiting. That feels like a warning label.
It is. It's the most critical line in the text. In many conditions, you can push through. If your knee hurts and you keep walking, you might be sore tomorrow, but you'll probably be okay. If you have AI and you push through low cortisol symptoms, you risk cascading into an adrenal crisis. That's where your blood pressure bottoms out, your electrolytes go haywire, and you can die. The quiet signals are the body saying, I am running out of resources to keep you alive. Please stop.
So responding to these quiet signals isn't self-indulgence, it's preventative medicine.
It's survival skills. The text reframes this beautifully. It says learning to respond is, quote, not about fear, it's about skill. That is such an empowering shift. It moves you from a victim of your body to a manager of your body.
I love that. It's pattern recognition. Oh, I'm feeling that specific type of coldness in my hands. I'm not just cold, I need sodium and a break.
Exactly, and doing that before you collapse. It's defensive driving for your health. If you see a car swerving ahead of you, you slow down. You don't wait until it hits you. Responding to the subtle dizziness or the irritability is slowing down before the crash.
Let's talk about the action part of this. The article ends with a challenge. What is one quiet signal my body has been sending lately? If someone listening identifies with this, maybe they have AI or maybe they suspect they do, what does responding with care actually look like practically? Is it just sleeping more?
It's more nuanced than just sleep. Sometimes sleep doesn't fix it, as the text notes. Responding with care means auditing your energy expenditure. It might mean saying no to a social event because you had a busy work week. It might mean updosing your medication, under your doctor's guidance, of course, when you have a cold. It might mean sitting down to chop vegetables instead of standing. It's micro adjustments.
And getting over the guilt of those adjustments.
100%. A text says, resting sooner is not failure. That is the mantra. If you rest now, you might lose an hour. If you crash later, you lose 3 days. It's simple economics. You are protecting your capacity to live the rest of your life.
I think that's a profound point, even for people without AI, though obviously the stakes are different. But for the AI community, it's literally life or death. Before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last thing from the article. It mentions that these changes often appear after stressors that don't feel major at the time, like a seasonal change. Why are seasonal changes a stressor? That seems so benign.
We don't think about it, but our bodies are constantly adapting to barometric pressure and temperature. When winter hits, a healthy body burns more calories and produces more cortisol to keep warm and maintain metabolism. For an AI patient, that demand increases, but their supply doesn't. So October or November can be dangerous months where they feel drained for no reason. The reason is the weather.
It really highlights how deeply connected our biology is to the environment and how much the adrenal glands buffer us from that environment. When that buffer is gone, you feel everything.
You really do. You are living without a filter. And that's why these quiet signals matter so much. They are the only dashboard you have.
Rachel, this has been incredibly illuminating. It really changes the perspective from looking for the emergency to listening for the whisper. Any final thoughts for our listeners who might be navigating this?
Just that your body isn't trying to fail you. It's communicating in the only language it has left. If you can learn that language, the language of subtle fatigue, of cold hands, of brain fog, you can reclaim a lot of stability. Don't let the guilt drown out the signal.
The goal is not to avoid life. It's to protect the capacity to live it. I think we'll end on that powerful line. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you to everyone listening. If you know someone dealing with adrenal insufficiency, or if this resonated with your own experience of chronic illness, consider sending this episode their way. It might just be the validation they need today.